Ever wondered how long it would take to make your money back if you build a prison? It's a strange business when you think about it, turning punishment into profit. But in the United States, private prisons are just that, businesses. They operate on contracts, margins, and tax structures like any other company. The numbers behind it will surprise you. Let's imagine you own a private prison under contract with the state. To get started, you'd need around $70 to $100 million to build a medium-sized facility for about 1,000 inmates. You wouldn't pay all that up front. Investors and real estate funds usually step in, and there's often some government-backed financing involved. Once construction's done and the cells are ready, the real business starts. The government pays you a set amount per inmate per day, a rate that generally falls somewhere between $70 and $120 depending on the state and the security level of the prison. Using a middle number of $90 per inmate per day, and assuming full capacity, that's 1,000 inmates bringing in $90,000 every day. Over a year, you're looking at roughly $32.85 million in revenue. Now, as for the expenses, running a prison is expensive and labor heavy. Staff salaries, guards, nurses, counselors, cooks, maintenance, and administrators eat up the largest chunk, usually about 60 to 65% of the total budget. That's around $18 million a year just in payroll. Food, clothing, and healthcare for inmates add another $4 to $5 million. Keeping the place running, utilities, maintenance, cleaning, and laundry costs another $2 to $3 million. Then you've got insurance, transportation, and administrative costs adding roughly $1 million more. All in, you're spending somewhere around $26 to $27 million each year to keep the place operational. So if your annual revenue is $32.8 million and your expenses total around $26.5 million, you're left with an operating profit of about $6.35 million. That's a solid 19 to 20% operating margin, better than many retail or manufacturing companies. But that's not the end of the story. You've still got debt from the construction loan. If you finance $70 million over 20 years at 4% interest, your annual payment comes out to about $5 million. After paying that, your pre-tax income is roughly $1.35 million. Subtract corporate income taxes, 21% federal, maybe another 5% state, and you're left with around $1 million in net profit. It doesn't sound massive considering the scale, but remember, big prison corporations like CoreCivic and GEO Group don't run just one facility. They operate dozens, sometimes hundreds, across multiple states. That turns $1 million here and there into tens or even hundreds of millions annually. Of course, they have ways to boost profitability. The simplest method is keeping occupancy high. In many contracts, the government guarantees a minimum occupancy rate, often around 90%. That means if the cells are half empty, the state still pays as if they're almost full. It's basically a built-in safety net that ensures predictable cash flow. On the expense side, cost cutting is an art form. Private prisons keep wages low, limit overtime, and often reduce the quality or quantity of food, healthcare, and programs. Every dollar saved on an inmate's care goes straight to profit. Critics argue this neglects and puts inmates in poor conditions, but from a business standpoint, it's efficient. Some prisons also make extra income through inmate labor programs. Inmates can be hired out to produce goods, do call center work, or provide services for private companies, sometimes for only a few dollars an hour. The prison charges the outside company market rates, but only pays the inmates a fraction of that. The difference becomes pure profit. Depending on the scale, this can bring in anywhere from a few $100,000 to several $1 million each year. When all is said and done, a typical private prison might generate between $30 and $35 million in yearly revenue and net somewhere between $1 and $3 million after taxes and interest. Margins are decent, but not outrageous. What makes the business appealing is how steady it is. The contracts are long-term, the demand for prison space rarely dips, and the payments come from governments, which don't default. It's as stable as it gets. That's why many large prison operators are structured like real estate investment trusts, or REITAS. These entities get special tax advantages and distribute a large share of profits directly to shareholders, often making returns comparable to hotel chains or logistics companies, typically in the 10 to 15% range after all deductions. Do you think cutting expenses by making the inmate's life more uncomfortable is worth it?